Paul Mescal, who is the
All
star
right.
of one of the biggest shows on TV right now, Normal People. Everyone I know is watching it. Everyone I know is tweeting about it. How does it feel to be in a show? I know this is your first sort of real big project on screen. How does it feel to see people reacting to the show and all the response that you're getting?
It's Firstly, it's amazing. Secondly, it's probably a tiny bit overwhelming, but it's like I couldn't have imagined probably a better response, I don't think.
Are you on social media? Are you reading what people are saying, or have you kind of tried to stay away from it?
Bits, a bit of both. Like I try to stay off it a little bit, but it's my family kind of send me the highlights. Yeah.
I wanted to start by having you walk us through how you auditioned for the role of Connell. Were you sent the script? Did you know what you were auditioning for when you went in to read? And then how did you prepare for him? And had you read Sally Rooney's book?
So what happened was I was aware of the book prior to reading the book, obviously, and what happened was I was doing a play in Dublin at the time that the audition got sent through to me by my agent, and I saw that it was going to be based on Sally Rooney's book, so I quickly read the book before my first round audition. And then in terms of preparation, it was just about trying to absorb as much of the book as quickly as possible, because I think I had about 3 or 4 days to kind of learn the sides and read the book. And yeah, that was kind of the initial prep. And then as you get further along the audition process, it was literally, for me, it was about going back to the book as often as possible.
And you had also gone to Trinity, like Connell had.
Yeah. Yeah, I studied acting in the Lear Academy in Dublin, which is the Trinity's acting school, essentially. So yeah, it was a familiar territory, I suppose.
What did you read when you went in for your audition? Was there, how many rounds were there?
So there was, the first round was one scene, I think, I could be wrong. It was the scene where Marianne's eating the ice cream, and she asks if Connell should give her grinds. And then for the second audition, we did the same scene again, but that was when I first met Lenny. So the first scene was with Karen Scully and Eva Jane Gaffney. We were casting directors with Louise, who cast the show. And then when I met Lenny, we did that scene again, and we did, I should remember this, I think we did the scene in the Ghost Estate where at the end of episode 2.
And then they tell you you have it, or did you have to keep coming back
No,
and meet with Lenny again? What happened after that?
I wish it was as simple as that. No, so after that, those 2 auditions were before Christmas of not last year, the year before last, and I felt like they'd gone quite well, but like it's impossible to tell really. And then my agent got an email from the casting director being like, okay, Paul's the only boy called back for the chemistry reads. But so that was kind of like incredibly discombobulating in the sense that you think, okay, that's very good news, but it's not the news. So I read with 5 amazing actresses, but they didn't get the Marianne from that chemistry read. But in the interim between this first chemistry and the second chemistry, they put me out of my misery, thankfully.
And then you kept reading with more actresses until you read with Daisy Edgar Jones, who ended up
Yeah.
playing Marianne.
Yes.
What was it about her audition that sort of made the chemistry finally click into place between the 2 of you? Could you tell when you auditioned with her that she was probably going to play Marianne, or she was best suited to play Marianne?
In my opinion, yes, I thought that was going to be the case, and I think it's very difficult to quantify why that is. I think I've said it in interviews before, but it felt like and this sounds like odd, but it felt like Connell and Marianne were talking to each other rather than me and Daisy acting the talking to each other, if that makes sense. And I think it just felt quite natural and easy, and because Connell and Marianne communicate in, I think, very kind of difficult ways, that the words that they use and the way that the brain works is quite complex. So it just felt like the 2 characters were communicating with each other.
Did you shoot the scenes when they were younger first, or did you shoot, I know you didn't shoot in chronological order, but did those scenes come first, or did other scenes come first?
Yeah, so the first scene in the show was actually the first scene we shot on the very first day. That kind of scene when Connell's terrified of Marianne inside in their house. So it was probably useful from Lenny's side of things that I was definitely incredibly nervous on my first day, as was Connell. And then we shot, the first 2 weeks of the shoot was all based in Marianne's house, so we basically just shot out each location. And yeah, so we got to spend the first 2 weeks, which was nice because me and Daisy had a lot of scenes in that house, so it was a really nice way of not moving around, jumping around loads of locations, and kind of playing a very similar time scale in terms of like, it was school stuff, it was after school stuff. So yeah, that was, and then after that, it was a free for all. You were kind of jumping between episodes. Well, we shot the first 6 episodes together, and then the second 6.
What were you nervous about when you first started?
I was nervous about delivering a character that I loved to an audience in the way that they believed it, I think.
Did you have many conversations with Sally about sort of the narrative arc of your story and the novel?
I met Sally for 2 coffees, I think, before filming, which like were like invaluable in the sense that it's just amazing to talk to somebody, A, as generous as her, but B, who basically owns these people that people love. But in terms of what kind of relieved me was the fact that me and Sally were on a very similar wavelength in terms of who we thought this man was. So it kind of, those conversations weren't necessarily about me garnering a huge amount of information, but kind of putting my mind at ease.
Were there other coming of age stories that you thought of or looked at when you were making the movie or when you were creating him as a character? I was thinking of An Education as I was watching it, even though it's a very different story, but I felt like it had sort of a similar kind of fabric to it. Were there other movies that you were thinking of as you were preparing him?
I think I'd be lying if I said that anything popped into my head that I kind of... I think it was because I had the book the whole way through my preparation, and that was whenever I felt like whenever I was like going over things in my own head, it was always book related. So I didn't, and I just think the narrative in that book and story is so strong, and also individual, or it is its own entity, that I felt that was my main focus. I think it would have been less useful for me to kind of get reference points out of other films or books when the book itself is so strong. So I did predominantly use that as kind of my Bible during shooting.
There's been a lot of talk about Connell's necklace online. Did you have multiple necklaces that you tried on, and how did you find the right necklace?
It's kind of like a Jedi choosing his lightsaber, I think. Or what is it? Is that the right reference, or is it Harry Potter? No, it's Harry Potter. The wand chooses you. No, it was but there was... I remember I had initial conversations with when we did our first costume fittings, because it was one of the details that I really liked about the book, because I was like, oh, Connell wears a chain. That's like, not a lot of people wear chains today. So I was really keen to see what it was, and it wasn't there at the first fitting. Remember when I came back again, Lorna Marie Mugan, who's an incredible costume designer, had a selection of different ones, and that one just seemed really right because it's simple, but it's also a massive statement that I don't think Connell is aware that he's making.
And the statement is?
I don't know. I actually don't know what it is. I think it's a real indication to his identity in some way that I can't describe. I don't know.
So was there only one chain, or did you have multiple chains that you'd wear that were?
There was one chain that I wore like I didn't take it off during filming.
But did they have like extra versions of it in case you lost it, or is it the only one?
They had a backup, but it was never going to need to be used because I wore it home, and not for any reason other than it was more convenient to just wear it rather than take it off.
So you basically wore it the entire time you were filming?
Yeah, I wore it for the whole summer. I wore it actually before filming. I think I wore it in the lead up to filming just because I liked it. So, yeah.
Did you see the Instagram account that one of your fans created that is devoted just to Emmett's chain? Sorry, just the Connell's chain? I
did, and I think it is amazing. It was probably the last thing I was expecting to garner a response was Connell's chain, but I find it baffling that I looked at the page this morning and I saw it like 19,000 or 20,000 followers, which is just it's so fun. I just think it's hilarious.
And then you ended up not keeping the chain, right? You gave it to Daisy on the last day of.
I gave it to Daisy, and I'm gonna come out on the record and not blame her for losing it, because we had to do. I gave it to her as a wrap gift with photographs at the end of filming, and and then I had to. We then came back to shoot the poster for the show, so I obviously had to get it back off her and wear it. And then it kind of got lost in the melee of like costumes and stuff. But Lorna has since sent it back. That Lorna found it, and I think Daisy has it now. I think
So it's been found.
it has been found. You can call off the search party.
The book is very realistic in the portrait of love and sex. How did you guys prepare? I know you worked with an intimacy coordinator, but how did you prepare to shoot those scenes? And was it frightening? Was it scary? Was it unnerving when you had to actually start filming those scenes?
What do you mean in terms of preparation?
How did you work with the intimacy coordinator for
of course,
for the love scenes?
So basically, me and Daisy rehearsed with Lenny for 2 weeks prior to filming. And on one of those days, Ita came in to kind of work with us and just take us through her process of what a day on set would look like when we were shooting those scenes. And that was really useful because it kind of took the edge off the anxiety when it came to shooting those scenes on the first day that we shot them. And it basically, there was a very kind of not regimented, because I think regimented kind of gives connotations that the experience wasn't, those scenes weren't creative, because I think what Lenny did so wonderfully is he still managed to keep those scenes as a conversation between character, but ultimately the purpose of the intimacy coordinator is to make the sex look believable and right, but B, that me and Daisy felt safe throughout that process. So what we would do is Ita would check in with me and Daisy in our trailers in the morning and just make sure we were feeling okay, and have a brief conversation. And then we would discuss the degree of nudity that would be required each and every day, and what shots required it. Actually, more so, what shots required the nudity. And then after that, it was me and Daisy would arrive to set, and we'd block through the scene in sweatpants and a t-shirt, and then we would have a conversation, both myself and Daisy and Lenny and Ita, about what we were comfortable with, and all of those things were basically to just give me and Daisy agency in the process and take away the anxiety. So then it was about then delivering the scene as accurately and as beautifully as we thought was written on the script.
Did you watch the show with any family and friends, and was it hard or easy to watch it with them, or did you leave during those scenes?
No, I think, because ultimately I think I did watch with my parents, and it is an odd experience when you sit down and you go, okay, Mum and Dad and brother and Nell and Donica, we're watching this, we're watching episode 1 to 4, and in episode 2 there's a big old sex scene, but they were amazing about it, because also they're in a position where they knew that this was going to be required from day one. So I think they were expecting the day to come where they were going to have to sit down and watch it. But I think ultimately I would be much more embarrassed about it if I was embarrassed by the sex scenes, or if I thought that I had in some way been taken advantage of in the filming process, which was never ever the case. So I was able to look back and go, oh, these are scenes that I'm really proud of. Yes, it is a bit odd watching it with your parents, but I think they're done in a way that is quite fresh in terms of seeing on screen, and I'm just really proud of them, and my family were able to sit and watch it.
How has your life changed since the show started to premiere? Has it changed? Do you feel like things are different?
I feel like things are slightly different, just in terms of like conversations with my wonderful agents, and kind of discussing hopefully things that may or may not happen next. But in terms of like a day-to-day basis, quarantine's my best friend at the moment, because there's still a structure that hasn't changed before or after the premiere, if that makes sense.
Of course. I mean, I think it would be different, you're right, if we weren't in this period with the coronavirus and you were out and about, but you probably aren't getting recognized because you're in your flat.
Yes, inside these four walls. Yeah.
Are you in Ireland right now?
No, I'm in London.
Oh, you're in London.
Yeah.
What have you been getting offers for other projects, or have you been auditioning? Or are
No,
you able to?
yeah, I've been auditioning and self taping, so it's not so much offers. It's just I feel that it's just an exciting time to be hearing about projects that I wouldn't have necessarily heard about before, and that the not only people like everybody who watches TV, but the industry I feel is quite excited about the show, and that's just the dream, I think.
What trajectory do you see for yourself? If you could be in any kind of project, would you want to be in big blockbusters? Would you want to be in sort of independent films? Would you want to do more television? Do you have a path that you're most excited about and most interested in?
I don't have a I think to reference one of those kind of isolates them as their own entity. I think the thing that I am most interested in is following the standard of writing that I've been lucky to work in so far. So that could be on stage, it could be on screen, it could be in a big blockbuster, it could be in anything. I think I'm not limiting. I think it's just dangerous to limit it to categories, and ultimately, I'm still learning about what those like scripts look like when I read them, trying to get an appetite, and I'm developing my taste as a reader more so than anything else at the moment.
I noticed that you were posting yourself singing and at the piano on your Instagram account. Have you do you write your own music? Do you like doing covers? Like what sort of, can you talk a little bit about your interest in music?
My interest in music probably stems from my sister, who's an amazing musician and who's 17 and who's just started like releasing her own stuff, and we talk quite a bit about music and taste. And I basically just like I played a little bit of piano and I do really enjoy singing. So I ordered myself a little keyboard for my flat during quarantine to kind of keep me occupied.
And are there covers that you're doing that you'll post or that you are thinking about posting for your Instagram fans?
I don't know. I just enjoy doing it. Like if a song pops into my head that I want to cover, I'll probably post it, but I don't know.
Um, I heard you liked Billie Eilish. You're a fan of hers?
Yeah, she's amazing. I don't know who doesn't like Billie Eilish. She's so talented.
Do you do any Billie Eilish songs, or do you have genres that you
I,
like?
I don't at the moment. I think between Billie Eilish and Phoebe Bridgers, there's lots of songs to be thinking about.
Do you know what you're doing next, or has that not even been decided?
No, I hope there is a project that I just like. I can't discuss at the moment, but that I'm really excited to hopefully be able to talk about soon at some point.
And it's gonna, you can't say anything about it.
No, I can't,
Okay.
unfortunately. I wish I could, and I want to. I want to scream it, but yeah, at some point.
I guess just to close, can you talk a little bit about working with Lenny and his approach to shooting the scenes and his approach to telling the story? Because he is a very talented director, obviously, and made Room. And what did you guys talk about when you were sort of envisioning the story and adapting the story? Like, what was his point of view in terms of like what he wanted to accomplish?
Yeah, I think Lenny has potentially spoiled my career for forever, just because to work with him first is kind of crazy to me, for me to imagine like 3 or 4 years ago that I'd get to work with Lenny as my first kind of screen credit. And I think it's just the amount of autonomy he gives you as an actor while still having a very clear vision about who the characters are, how he wants to tell the story. But I think what I loved about it so much was how actor centric and how he placed the characters and the actors at the center of how he wants to direct and tell the story. And like there were so many moments on set that you just be pinching yourself, kind of talking about the characters with somebody who's incredibly intuitive when it comes to script and what works and what doesn't. Like I come to him and we'd be rehearsing a scene and it wouldn't necessarily be working or something, and he'd be like, and I'd be able to understand that it's not working, but I couldn't tell you why all the time. And he'd be able to just shift a line or give a note at the kind of critical time. And it feels to me sometimes when Lenny's directing that he's conducting an orchestra, that he's just totally in tune with every department, but is placing the melody right in the middle of it. And I think it's it was just an absolute privilege to work with him, and yeah.
How many times have you seen the show?
I've seen it. I saw all the episodes kind of in isolation as they were kind of being picture locked, and then I watched it through start to finish last Sunday.
Oh, you hadn't seen it till last Sunday.
No, I saw all the episodes like.
Oh, you hadn't seen it like in succession.
I hadn't seen it in succession until last Sunday. Yeah.
Was it different watching it in succession?
Totally. I think it's a more kind of immersive experience. Like when you're waiting months between seeing episode 10 and episode 11, it's like you're like, oh, whereas when you see the kind of through line of the characters in 6 kind of mad hours, it's really satisfying.
I also watched it in succession, and I loved it. It's one of my favorite shows of the year. Paul, thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. Really, everyone, if you haven't seen Normal People, please watch it now. It's available on Hulu in the United States. Thank you for joining us, Paul. Take care.
Thanks very much. Bye-bye.